Chag Sameach and Happy Hanukkah. My name is Gary Davidson, and it's a pleasure to be able to celebrate the 8th and final night of Hanukkah with you this evening. As we know, the Hanukkah story dates back 2,100 years ago. At that time, the Greeks had a very powerful culture and civilization, as well as a very strong army. And the army was able to conquer much of the Near East, including Syria. And under Greek influence, the Syrian people and its army became Hellenized, meaning they adopted the Greek culture and the Greek ways. And then the Syrian army, under the leadership of Antiochus IV, also known as Epiphanes, which means beloved by the gods. Well, that army went into Israel and outlawed the Jews from practicing their faith. And instead, they tried to force upon the Jewish people the Greek culture, especially worshiping the Greek gods, the head god being Zeus. Now, unfortunately, many of the Jews succumbed to the influence of the Greeks and adopted Greek names and Greek language and dressed like the Greeks and prayed to the Greek gods. But there were many, many Jews who refused to submit. And they wanted to fight because they believed in their faith, they believed in the one God, and they wanted to stand up for their religious freedom. So under the leadership of Mattathias and his 5 brave sons, who the most famous of whom was Judah the Maccabee, also known as Judah the Hammer, they led a rebellion against the much stronger and better equipped Syrian army. Now, the war lasted a few years. And perhaps some might say that the Jews should have lost because, again, they were outnumbered and outgunned. But to their credit, the Jews knew the land far better than the Syrian army did. And moreover, they were very intelligent militarily. What did they do? They would oftentimes attack at night. They would come down from the hills and the caves from which they were hiding. They would attack the Syrian army, and then they would retreat before the Syrians could really retaliate. And night after night, the Jews were very successful in their campaign against the Syrian army. And eventually, miraculously, the Jewish army defeated the Syrians. And it was a great victory for the Jews. And that was why that was the first miracle of this holiday. But the second miracle occurred soon thereafter, when the Jews then wanted to liberate their land. They went back into the city, the holy city of Jerusalem, to their holy temple, and they wanted to rededicate it to their God, because remember, the temple had been defiled by the Syrian army and turned into a shrine to the Greek gods. And so the Jews had to clean out and purify their temple and rededicate it to the one God, and the word dedication is Hanukkah in Hebrew. Well, in the temple were a series of lights, the candelabra, and so the lights were fueled by pure olive oil that had been blessed by the Jewish high priest. Well, when the Jews tried to locate some of the pure olive oil to relight the lights, they only found a small amount, enough for 1 day and 1 night. But according to our tradition, a second miracle occurred when the oil lasted a total of 8 days and 8 nights. And that's why our holiday lasts a total of 8 days and 8 nights. And we recreate the kindling of the lights by lighting a hanukkiah, which consists of 8 candles, each representing 1 night of the holiday. On the first night, we start by placing a candle on the far right side of the hanukkiah, and we light it using a helper candle up here, known as the shamash in Hebrew. On the second night, we have 2 candles that we light. Third night, we light 3 candles, etc., until we come to 8 nights, which is tonight, and we will light all 8 candles, celebrating this wonderful miracle of the oil as well as the victory of the Jews over their oppressors. So we will light the candles this evening, all 8 of them, starting with the shamash. I'm going to light that first, and then together I hope you'll join me in singing the 2 blessings over the candles. First, I'll do it in the Hebrew for the first blessing, and then I'll translate it into English. And then I'll continue with the singing of the second blessing in Hebrew, and then I'll translate it into English as well. And then I will use my shamash to light all of the candles of this hanukkiah, starting with the 8th candle, which is the white candle over here, and then I will light all the other lights going back to the very first candle. So let's do this. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Hanukkah. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who commands us to kindle the Hanukkah lights. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asa nisim lavoteinu bayamim hahem bazman hazeh. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who made miracles for our ancestors long ago at this time. I don't know if you can tell, but the reflection of the light is filling up the air in my home. The space is holy space. It's a space of miracles, just as it is for all of us who celebrate this holiday. I hope you'll now join me with the singing of a couple of Hanukkah songs. The first song I'd like to sing is I Made a Little Dreidel. Now, you may see me turn my eyes to the side because I have my laptop next to me so that I have the words there just in case I need them. But please join me first in singing I Have a Little Dreidel. I have a little dreidel, I made it out of clay, and when it's dry and ready, then dreidel I shall play. Oh, dreidel, 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 I made it out of clay, and when it's dry and ready, then dreidel I shall play. It has a lovely body with legs so short and thin, and when my dreidel's tired, it drops and then I spin. Oh, dreidel, 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 I made it out of clay, and when it's dry and ready, then dreidel I shall play. My dreidel's always playful, it loves to dance and spin. A happy game of dreidel, come play, now let's begin. Oh, dreidel, 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 I made it out of clay, and when it's dry and ready, then dreidel I shall play. And I just so happen to have a dreidel here, so I'm going to spin it. I better move my hanukkiah a little bit so you can see my dreidel. Oh, well, let's see what I got. I won. How awesome. Okay, now we're going to sing one other song for Hanukkah. It happens to be my favorite Hanukkah song, Ma'otzor, which talks about God as being like a rock and a savior, always solid, always there for us, always loving and caring, always someone we can depend on. So I ask that you please join me in the singing of Ma'otzor. Ma'otzor Yeshuati L'chana Elishabeach Tikon Be'tefilati B'sham Toda Nizabeach Li'etachin Matbeach Mitzar Hanabeach Azigmor Bishir Mizmor Chanukah HaMizbeach Azigmor Bishir Mizmor Chanukah HaMizbeach. Rock of Ages, let our song praise your saving power. You amid the raging foes were our sheltering tower. Furious they assailed us, but your arm availed us, and your word broke their sword when our own strength failed us. And your word broke their sword when our own strength failed us. Thank you so much for joining me for this, the eighth and final night of Hanukkah. As you can see, the glow of this festival of lights is shining brightly in my home, and I hope the joy and the happiness and the miracles of this holiday spread into your home, into your life as well. And together, let us celebrate this wonderful holiday that reminds us how important it is to be proud of who we are, to be proud of our faith and our tradition, and to be so thankful to have a warm and loving God who cares about us so much. Again, thank you so much for coming and joining me tonight for the eighth night of Hanukkah. Chag Sameach, and I wish you and your loved ones a happy holiday.
After lighting the Hanukkah candles, it's customary to sing a piyut, or liturgical poem, called Hanerot Hallalu. Its words are inspired by a passage in a minor tractate of the Talmud, Tractate Sofrim, written some 1,300 years ago, but it carries a timeless message that God, whose wonders and miracles inspired our forefathers in days of old, Bayamim Hahem, will inspire us as well in our time, Bazman Hazeh. The classic melody for this song that we'll sing here was composed by the Chazan Avram Tzvi Davidovich. Hanerot halalu anu madlikin, Hanerot halalu anu madlikin, al hanisim ve'al haniflaot ve'al hateshuot ve'al hamilchamot she'asita la'avotenu bayamim hahem bazman hazeh Bayamim hahem bazman hazeh. Hanerot halalu anu madlikin, Hanerot halalu anu madlikin, al hanisim ve'al haniflaot ve'al hateshuot ve'al hamilchamot she'asita la'avotenu, she'asita la'avotenu Bayamim hahem bazman hazeh, Bayamim hahem bazman hazeh.
Hi, my name is Chaplain Raphael Berdugo. I'm currently stationed at Joint Base McGuire-Dix Lakehurst in New Jersey, where I serve as the Deputy Joint Base Senior Chaplain. I'm now going to go over some of the Sephardic customs for Hanukkah. But before I do that, I want to share with you that in Morocco, which is where I'm from, so I'm going to start with Moroccan custom, they had their own Hanukkah miracle in the 1800s. The story is told about a wicked, cruel king who hated the Jews of his kingdom and sought for ways to torment them. One year, when the month of Kislev came and the Jews were eagerly preparing for the holiday, and the shamash, or the gabbai or sexton of the synagogue, was also busy polishing the big, beautiful, ornate copper menorah of the synagogue, As the Jews were coming into the synagogue to celebrate the first night of Hanukkah, they suddenly heard through the windows the voices of the king's heralds announcing that by order of the king, it was forbidden for the Jews to light the menorah, and that the synagogue would be locked up. Upon hearing the edict, the Jews' joy turned to mourning as they each headed home. The king posted guards by the synagogue with strict orders not to allow anyone to light the menorah. To everyone's amazement, a tremendous light issued forth from the dark synagogue, the light of the menorah. A tremendous panic fell upon the guards. They hurried to the king and swore before him that they watched very carefully and let no one sneak in. But the king was furious and had them executed for failing to follow his orders. He sent a second group of soldiers to make sure that it wouldn't happen again on the second night. But to everyone's amazement, the same thing happened again. A beautiful light emanated from the synagogue, from the menorah being lit. The furious king once again had them executed and replaced them with a bigger team of guards. But the same thing happened again on the third night, the fourth night, the sixth night, and the seventh night. On the eighth night, a tremendous light shone forth from all 8 candles being lit. When all of a sudden, as the guards were pondering how could this happen, the synagogue door opened and a little scrawny lad stepped out with faltering steps. It was the son of the shamash, of the gabbai of the shul. The guards pounced on him and brought him to the king and said triumphantly, "We caught him!" The king stared at the scrawny lad and asked him, "Did you not hear about my edict forbidding the menorah to be lit? How dare you disobey my command? We cannot celebrate in darkness," whimpered the lad. "Hanukkah is sad without candles and without light. Every year we light the menorah, and the synagogue is full of light and joy. And Father tells us stories of the miracles and wonders." "Well, how did you get in?" barked the king. "Well, when I heard the announcement, I quickly hid in the synagogue so I could light the menorah." "And what did you eat for 8 days?" "I swear, Your Honor, Your Highness, food has not entered my mouth for 8 days," replied the lad. The king looked at the lad's pale face, wondered about this boy's amazing strength, and his anger abated. "Let him go," he said. And from that day on, he allowed the Jews of Morocco to light the menorah with light and joy. Every year, the copper menorah was adorned with expensive lights to celebrate the double miracle. The universal custom is to eat foods fried in oil, preferably olive oil, since the miracle of Hanukkah was with olive oil. Donuts and latkes is the big favorite, and in Morocco they have their own version of donuts called shfins, fried dough, which is then drizzled with either honey or sugar. In Israel, it's a combination of both, called sufganiyot, filled with jelly. It was customary for Yemenite Jewish women to wear clothing decorated with bells and hold bells in their hands. After the lighting of the candles, they would go out into the street and play music, using the bells to celebrate the miracle of Hanukkah. In Turkey, it was customary to eat dairy products in memory of the miracle that happened when Judith tempted Holofernes with cheese and wine. In Libya, mothers sent their married daughters sphinge, Libyan donuts, and families bring the elders of the synagogue and the children in Jewish schools that same sphinge. In Tunisia, the hanukkiah the menorah would hang in the entrance of the home from the time of Hanukkah until Purim. So that's just a few of the Sephardic customs, and I'm sure there are many more, but that was just to give you a little taste of the Sephardic customs.